Is clear and free of any obstruction. Ask that this time you please make your way to your seats. Once again, please comply with the requests and directions of our ushering staff and security if they are trying to help you get seats in the arena area as you come in. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of Programming for WonderCon, Mr. Eddie Abraham.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. All right, so I'm sure we got some Big Bang Theory fans out there, right? That's right. How many of you are sad that this is its last year? Yeah, oh, I know. But it's great that the writers are going to be here to talk about it and maybe give you some inside scoop about what's going to happen in the future and all that stuff. So we want to make sure to let them know how excited we are that they're here. So let's let them, they're backstage, let's let them hear how excited you guys are that they're going to come out here for this. That's right. So with that, I know you guys are anxious to get it started. So I would like to bring out one of our friends at Warner Brothers Television. I'd like to give them a shout out as well. They've been very, very good to us here at WonderCon, and we're very excited that they continue to bring us such great stuff. And I would like to bring out our friend from Warner Brothers Television, Mr. Mark Klein.
Hey everybody, I'm Mark from Warner Brothers, and thank you so much for being here today to celebrate the Big Bang Theory. This is a special week for us. We're currently in production on our 276th episode, which officially makes us the longest running multi-camera comedy in television history. So that would not have been possible without all of you, so thank you so much to all of our fans for helping to get us there. We've been off for a few weeks, but the Big Bang Theory returns with an all-new episode this Thursday at 8 p.m. on CBS, and with only 7 all-new episodes left, you don't want to miss a moment. Speaking of, I know it's sad, but mark your calendars for the 1-hour series finale airing Thursday, May 16th at 8 p.m. on CBS. But we're here to celebrate today, so we're going to kick things off with a sizzle reel of some of our favorite moments so far from season 12. So let's roll the reel.
Bang, you're out.
What? I'm not out. You didn't even shoot me.
I'm not going to shoot you from right here. It's too close. It's going to hurt.
Oh, come on. It's not going to hurt that bad.
I'm telling you, from this distance, it's going to hurt. Ow! See, that hurt.
All right, fine. You can shoot me.
No, I'm not going to shoot you. Ow!
Ow! Oh! Ah, you're right. We're way too close.
See, I told you it's going to hurt. Ow!
Are we playing musical chairs or Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, let's teach that ogre what my broadsword tastes like.
I like your moxie.
Oh, and I like your grandpa words.
If you want, we could use my new laser to cut it open.
Well, you're not gonna cut open a meteor, are you? Have you not learned anything from comic books? Space viruses, pod people. I sell nothing but warnings.
Hey, Sheldon.
Hello.
Oh my God, you look amazing.
I find you guilty of murder because you are killing it.
My dad and I watched you win back-to-back championships.
And I watched you sniff Joe's hair when he wasn't looking.
Push X. X. Push X.
Which one's X?
The one with the X on it.
Take it easy, I'm new at this.
What, the alphabet?
Rule number 1 in a marriage: don't go to bed angry.
That makes sense.
Rule number 2 in a marriage: if you don't recognize the shoes under your bed, they're not your shoes.
Sheldon, why are you walking everywhere? Just get a horse.
I had a horse. I got hit by a train.
Get another one.
I
can't just replace Chauncey. I'm still in the grieving process.
Happy Halloween!
Who wants to see a magic trick? Oh, that's right, no one.
A few weeks ago, someone told us about your paper, and we realized that our failed experiment confirmed your theory.
And now, instead of losing our jobs, Fermilab flew us to LA Economy Plus. Free headphones.
Looks like my wife left me a month too soon.
Oh, look how cute you were.
Amy, please, of course I was cute. Look how I turned out.
Hello, Sheldon.
Hello, Sheldon.
Really? That's what you're sleeping in?
Oh, you want me to take it off?
No.
All right, well then pipe down and let me read my comic book.
Honey, I know what you're doing. Just please stop.
Ooh, listen to this. Bam. Pow. Take that, Batman.
Come on, Robin!
All right, please welcome the writers of The Big Bang Theory. Steve Holland, Steve Milaro, Bill Prady, Dave Gatch, Eric Kaplan, here they come, Maria Ferrari, Tara Hernandez, Jeremy Howe, and Adam Faberman. And now please welcome our special guest moderator. He joined the show in season 3, I believe, as a slightly more evil version of himself, but he's been a dear friend of The Big Bang Theory ever since. Please welcome Will Wheaton.
Thank you. Boy, that's a long walk. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. Before we get started, I have questions for all of you. But before we officially get started, I waited to say this out here because you deserve the applause of this room. Maria Ferrari just signed an overall deal with Warner Brothers, and I'm so happy for you. I was going to say congratulations backstage, but I wanted you to say, I wanted these people to applaud you because that's a really big deal. And we're really excited for you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Will.
So I joined the series in season 3. I was already a huge fan of the show, and over the last 9 seasons, you all have made me feel like I'm part of your family, and it's been an incredible experience for me.
A lot of people don't know this, but you were Will Wheaton before the show. We didn't invent that. That's true. That was
the historical record is a little unclear. We're not quite sure where the causality loop begins. It is the last season of The Big Bang Theory. And I experienced...
I was not aware of that.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way. This is really awkward. I want to know from all of you what it is like, what you are going through in the room day after day, knowing that you're getting to wrap up the show. You're getting to wrap up the show on your own terms, which is a really big deal. That's a great thing that you get to do that. But the show's also ending, and if I am heartbroken about that, I cannot imagine what it feels like for you guys who live with these characters in your head every single day. So would you talk about the practical reality of knowing, all right, we're wrapping up our show, we got the list of things we want to do, and these are the things that we can't do, and what it is like emotionally in the writer's room these days?
I mean, in a lucky way, we knew this was the final season pretty early this year. I think we were only on our 2nd episode, so that gave us a lot of time to talk about where we wanted to leave these characters and what we wanted to drive towards at the end. So that was great. I mean, it was hard emotionally on all of us. Everyone is really family. This show's been a huge part of our lives. So, but in a good way also, there was a lot of work still to do. We had 20-some episodes left to write, so that was able to push some of it off. But now we're getting closer and closer, and each episode is, this is the last time we're going to do this, or the last time we're going to do that, and that makes it harder.
I think it's hard when you say this may be the last time we see this somebody who plays a recurring part on the show, and comes by and you say.
I'll tell you this: this series of last sunk in for the first time from you. When you were on the show and you pulled me and Steve aside on the stage and said, thank you so much for letting me be on the show, and this is probably the last time I'm going to be on it. And I think Hala and I were both like, oh no, I guess not intentionally, but I guess that's true. And that was when it all these lasts. Like this could be our last writers panel. I don't know. It's really tough.
When you work together every day on a show, like you become family. You can't not. And the characters take on a life of their own. And we know that we're really kind of a few weeks away from not getting to tell these characters' stories anymore. And I wonder, surely
You're just trying to make us cry up here.
Sorry about that. Can we get some tissue for the panel? But surely there are stories that you have wanted to tell that you ran out of time, that you can't tell them. Is there anything you feel like sharing with the room that is a thing that you really wanted to do that just you could never quite pull it together? Like what will we see in the Big Bang Theory comic?
I mean, I don't know that there's any actually big stories that we didn't get to do that I'm really upset, but there's certainly stories that we talked about doing and never quite cracked. There's a few stories also that we did that had been floating around forever. Like I think there was a story that you pitched in season 1.
Oh,
I've thrown that to you.
Oh, okay. In season 1, right, it was the death of a theory. It was just the idea that one of the characters, Sheldon or Leonard, had a theory they'd been working on forever, and then it was finally proven to not be a thing, and it died, and we watched them go through the stages of grief over a theory instead of a person, and I think that happened finally.
Right. Yeah, when
11 years later.
But you had always pitched a funeral that they would go through a funeral for it, and that was.
And it was a story that would pop up, every couple. Sometimes we'd circle back around to it and never quite cracked it. And then this year, when Sheldon and Amy found the Russian paper seemed to disprove super asymmetry, we finally got around to doing it.
I always wanted to see, and a thing that we will wind up never doing, but I always imagined Leonard's family, if you ever saw them together. I always saw them like the family in the movie Quiz Show, that, a family of super intellectuals and stuff, and I don't think we get to do that.
The extreme awkwardness of Leonard's parents being in the same place fills me with anxiety, even though they're not real people. Eric Kaplan, you are the resident D&D expert in the room. And we recently did what's probably going to go down as my favorite episode that I got to work on in the series, where Will Wheaton has a celebrity D&D game. Would you talk a little bit about, did that idea originate with you because you're the D&D guy, or was it sort of floating around the room?
I think the idea did not originate with me because I'm less interested in meeting celebrities. No offense. But I liked the idea, and what was intriguing to me was, two things. One was all these years I had been pronouncing that monster with the huge maw in the middle and 3 legs and a bunch of whipping tentacles as an Atyuf. And I was happy that I was able to put this dialogue in the mouth of celebrities. That's not a neo-Atyuf, that's an Atyuf, or that's not an Atyuf, that's a neo-Atyuf. And then, usually the actors don't weigh in on the script. There's a sort of a division of labor. But then I heard there was a big problem on the set because it's not pronounced Atyuf. It's pronounced Atyug. And I learned this from you. And
that is true. Manganello and I were talking about that.
But now I have a question for you, if I can turn the tables.
Turn them.
Why do you know how to pronounce it?
Because
it's not real.
Because
I never saw an Atyuf.
Because I am a nerd.
Okay. That's an argument based on personal authority, but...
It is because when I was a kid, I had I had the 3 D&D core books, and I read them the way a normal person reads a novel. I read them the way a normal person reads literature or a magazine. And I felt my monster manual was like the Audubon Society's Field Guide to Birds. They weren't real, but there was a consistency in them that was important for me to
But it
know
wasn't an
about.
audiobook. You get what I'm driving at, right?
I do get what you're driving at.
Maybe we shouldn't do this in front of the people. It might be embarrassing.
Yeah, no, that is a great fair comparison. I think it's that I decided that I was going to use the g sound of the GH rather than the f sound of the GH. It's a personal preference
You think
situation.
it's yuck?
Well, it's a Yiddish monster.
It is Yiddish. Well, I think it's just interesting because we both had these personal, nerd-like, lonely, proto-young serial killer, but it went a better way.
It did.
And we both heard the sound in our ears of what this made-up thing, which is, by the way, a pretty dumb monster, sounded like. And then it turned into the production of this television show, and you successfully cowed everybody based upon that voice that you heard in your head when you were a little kid reading the Monster Manual. So that's beautiful.
It's good when I can get other people to listen to the voices inside my head. That episode featured an incredible cast of guest stars, and the series itself has featured an amazing rotating cast of phenomenal guest stars. Like, I got to be in scenes with Stephen Hawking, even though he wasn't on set. I got to meet Ira Flatow, was kind of a super duper big deal for me. But I would love to start down with Adam and just come this way. Just quick answers. Who's a person that has come to guest on the show that you have been super geeked out about that was just so cool?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, same.
I think that day when he was on set, which was also, you were there, and William Shatner and Joe Manganiello, I think everyone was huddled around Kareem. Everyone was so excited to meet Kareem.
Yeah. Yeah, all of us, everyone in that scene was like, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's in the scene. Don't screw up your dialogue in front of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And you can't call him Kareem. You have to call him Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Like, that's the law. Go.
Andy Daly, actually. He was on the season, and that was super exciting for me because I love his show called Review.
Yep,
That is
okay.
no longer on TV. But.
Right on, Tara?
Sean Astin, like hands down. Samwise Gamgee, like, are you kidding? I was losing my mind.
Sean and I have been friends since we were little kid actors going on auditions for the same roles. Sean, when I was like, I can't believe you get to do Lord of the Rings, he would always say, yeah, but you did Stand By Me, and I wanted that role. And I was like, but you got Goonies. You got to play on a water slide. Like, you win. Sean texted me when he was on the set for his first episode, and he said, which dressing room is yours? And I was like, I don't know. It changes all the time. And he goes, I wanted to leave you a dirty word on your mirror. And so I said, you should go write a dirty word on all the mirrors and sign it Sean Astin, so everyone knows. Maria.
And Neil Gaiman, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I missed him the first time because I was having a baby, and these guys had him draw me a picture of Dream, which was really special. But then I got to meet him again later.
So you got to welcome a baby into the world and getting an original Neil Gaiman Dream sketch.
Which was more exciting.
Which was better.
Don't worry that your family's here. You can be honest,
You
Maria.
have to tell the truth. We'll know if you're lying.
Well, my daughter's in the audience, so I'm just not going to say.
So it clearly was Neil Gaiman, which is the right answer. Kaplan.
Oh, I think he was a non-speaking role at a party of yours. I was excited to meet David Gerald.
Oh, for sure, yeah. David Gerald and Dorothy Fontana were at Will Wheaton's house when Brent Spiner becomes Sheldon's new nemesis.
Assuming he was playing David Gerald, I don't know.
He could have been playing a different character. He could have been playing an Atyuk.
He could.
Getch.
I was thrilled to see William Shatner, but for a specific reason, which is he looks so much like my dad.
He looks like my wife's dad.
I was able to retcon that my dad was in charge of the Enterprise.
Is there anybody else here who has a relative who looks like William Shatner? See, I think that there's something about that. We were talking about history and causality. Yeah, maybe there's multiple Shatners everywhere. Bill.
The day somebody said that Leonard Nimoy was on the phone was a crazy day. And then I picked it up, and it was Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
And that was remarkable. But I will say, of all the people that have been on The Big Bang Theory, only one was in the story where my son said, I think I'd like to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I said, I got a guy who can come over and teach you and your friends. And Will came to my house and taught them D&D. And
that was really fun.
Awesome. That was truly awesome.
That was really fun. That was great.
I mean, that would be like having Kareem Abdul-Jabbar come and teach your kid basketball, right?
I'm going to believe that I'm that cool, even though we all know it isn't true. Malara.
Still hard to believe Stephen Hawking was on our stage. I was going to say rolling around on our stage, and I stopped myself.
But you called it back, and you made yourself the bad guy in the story. So you're the good guy and the bad guy in the story. That was a great rhetorical flourish. Holland?
I mean, there's been so many, but Mark Hamill, I've been such a huge, lifelong Star Wars fan, and to get to, when we were first talking to him, and we didn't have a script yet, he was unsure if he wanted to commit to playing himself without a script. And at one point on the phone, he's like, well, what if could I come and just sit down and talk to you guys about it? And I was like, you want to come? Yeah, absolutely. We'll shut down everything, Mark Hamill. Come and hang out. So if Mark Hamill ever offers to come and hang out and talk to you for a few hours, say yes, because he's lovely.
The thing about Mark Hamill is that he's exactly the person you want him to be, isn't he? Like, he's super friendly. He'll do the Joker voice if you ask him, right? And he'll commit to it. He won't just be like, ha, 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 bats. He'll be like, here's a freaking Joker monologue. And he's the nicest freaking guy.
Lovely, yeah. He hung out and chatted with my son, and he made a video for my older son who was away at college, who couldn't be there for it. Like, he was so sweet.
I would love to invite anyone who wishes to ask questions to begin lining up down here at this microphone. I would ask you to please keep your questions concise and keep them as questions and not comments. Great, so that's working out. You guys are doing a terrific job forming a line. It is the nerds' natural orientation.
While they're lining up, and because we were talking about celebrity D&D and getting that,
I want you to tell this story
together. So it was actually lovely. Bill's known Shatner for a while, and I think you reached out to him originally, and over the years we tried to get him on the show, and it hadn't worked out for one reason or another. So he came to be on the show, and we were very excited to have him there. And I don't know if you know this story, but there's a famous audio clip of William Shatner doing voiceover for Star Trek and getting very upset when a director tries to tell him how to say the word sabotage. He didn't like it. He didn't like being told how to say something. So he comes to the set, and it's the first day, the first line of shooting, first thing in the morning, and he has a line about Wrath of Khan, and he starts saying Wrath of Khan. And we're like, oh no, he's not saying it right. Someone's gonna have to tell William Shatner how to say it.
And on the set, so they're all at Video Village, and on the set, like me and Kevin Smith and Mark Sandrowski, our director, all look at each other because we know what's happening.
So we huddle up and we talk about it, and I'm brave, so I made our director go talk to him. And he tried very delicately to be like, so Bill, when you're saying the Wrath of Khan line, I think, and he just tried to use it in a sentence a lot, hoping it would sink in. And Shannon was like, great, comes back, next take, Wrath of Khan. And we're like, someone else. So then our director was like, you know what? I'm not going back in. I'm just sending the AD, who said, Bill, they want you to say Wrath. And he's like, really, Wrath? Okay. And said Wrath, and he was lovely and delightful.
Bill's an interesting fellow because, he's I think he's 84 years old, and he can be a cranky guy. And he can be the funniest, sweetest, self-effacing guy in the world. The thing is, you never know who's going to show up. And you never know, if one shows up, you don't know if the other's going to then suddenly arrive unexpectedly. And he was great.
He was lovely. Yeah, we got the nice, lovely, charming, funny, delightful one.
Yeah,
and
he was fantastic.
I remember from that day that Kevin Smith, who we're all fans of, were you on the stage where he gave a speech to?
I was.
Remember Kevin? Yeah. Were you there when he did that? Kevin gave a speech about appreciate this time and appreciate what you're doing, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really kind. It was, I think that he sort of, he came in from the same place that I came in from, wow, I'm so lucky to be here before it's ending. Before we take this, let's go ahead, let's take your question, and then I'll have one of my questions next. Go ahead. Wow, we sure can't hear you, but it's not your fault.
Hello, WonderCon people. Microphone in the back, please.
Is your name Hannah?
Yes.
Oh. Hey, there you go.
Okay.
Just had to say her name.
Good work.
Okay, so my name's Hannah, and I'm a huge fan. of everybody on the show, and I love the fact that, Will, you're moderating the panel.
Thanks, me too.
My question is about Amy Farrah Fowler. She is my favorite character, and I love her evolution from being just a very flat, Sheldon-like character to being full-fledged, very sexual being. And I want to know how that came about, how there was so much growth in her character, because it's very cool.
Who wants to take that? Maria, go.
Well, so when you get a character like Amy, she kind of is her own thing. It is a combination of the actress Maya being really wonderful and what she brings to it from her life, and then there's this sort of synergy where we start to pick up on what is funny about what she's doing, and we sort of write and lean into it, and it kind of just happens on its own and evolves, and she is also my favorite character. So it was just the most amazing thing to watch her grow. And then we also sort of I bring in my own experiences of being lonely and trying to be known and loved, and I think so does everybody.
I feel like a turning point that I remember for Amy is when we hit upon her desperate need for Penny to be her best friend. That was something I remembered from high school a lot. And when some minor thing happened that Amy started calling Penny her bestie and wanted to emulate her so bad and have this life that she always wished for and wanted to know what it was like to go to the mall with friends or to have wine with somebody. I still remember she's because I drink now. And it's just been a joy to watch her get to live out all these wishes that she had from such a lonely private person, which I think a lot of us can relate to if you look back.
It always seemed that Amy had her adolescence late, that she waited and she went through. I mean, I remember you talking about what are things you go through when you're the slumber party and things like that were milestones of adolescence that she didn't have until she was an adult.
As the show has grown and matured and evolved, the characters have matured and evolved, has there been anything, has a character asserted a quality that was surprising to you? Or has a relationship grown in a way that you didn't predict early on? Like, how much comes out of the characters telling you to do something, and how much of, like, what's the balance of, you're going to do this, and the characters are like, no, we demand as characters to experience these things?
I mean, I think we actually, we don't plan out long season arcs. Even when Mayim first was on the show, there was no grand plan that she was going to be Sheldon's girlfriend and be the thing. A lot of that, we really leave ourselves room for it to grow organically.
I think we didn't expect what was going to happen in the scavenger hunt episode when we sort of unleashed Bernadette's inner fury.
I mean, that's because Melissa Rauch is so mean as a person. We just wrote that. No, she's not.
I love, so for the longest time, my favorite version of any character was Sheldon when he's drunk. I loved drunk Sheldon, but like, I've had it with your shit. Bernadette is now my absolute favorite character. Was she written, because I recall her starting out very sweet
big evolution,
and very much a foil.
A little ditzy maybe in the beginning.
Yeah, she's like a little mousy and a little ditzy at the beginning.
Yeah, Bernadette, who in the before they become a couple, was kind of a different character, and it sort of settled when we saw her. My favorite drunk Sheldon is the one who comes to threaten Will Wheaton.
I'm not milking an invisible cow. That's right. If you've seen Will Wheaton's house on The Big Bang Theory, you may notice that his address is 1701, which is a delightful little nod to some of my previous work. Sir, your question, sir.
Yes. The show features a great deal of scientific and technical information, as well as a great deal of arcane popular culture. Who among the staff handles all that scientific technical stuff, and who is the biggest pop culture geek?
Oh, that's a great question. Who's the big pop culture nerd in the room?
seems like everybody has.
I think we
their
all have our.
You specialize?
We specialize. I think it
Okay.
takes all of us to be as pop culture nerdy as the characters.
Holland owns Star Wars.
Well, here's a thing about Steve Holland and how much of a Star Wars guy Steve Holland is. So I've done a bunch of work for the Walt Disney theme parks, and I'm very proud of the Muppet 3D movie that played there, if anyone ever saw that. But they called and said that they were going to redo the pre-show area for Star Tours, which has right across the street with the droids and stuff like that. And they said, would you want to write that? And I said, I can't, but I know the guy who can. It is Mr. Steve Holland, and he did. So if you go through the little pre-show there of Star Tours,
You don't even have to get on the ride. Just go through, watch the jokes the robots tell, then go on with your day.
That's a serious level of nerddom when you're the nerd who writes the Star Wars droids in the Star Wars ride. I think that's like king nerd.
Steve has watched Star Wars so many times. I remember I wanted to put some obscure reference, and I had asked him, hey, does that ship or does that thing have a number on it? And I just watched him close his eyes and literally start playing like he rewound a tape in his head. I was playing the dialogue up until the part where the number was said, and then he was like, oh no, this is the number. That's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It was the security code at Lucas's house that the guys snuck onto when the security guard was calling in, like, we've got a code, whatever the number was from Star Wars.
Might have been A23. It's fine.
And I was always I was proud that in the early seasons, Sheldon has dialogue directly stolen from Star Trek in several places. Penny asks him, how do you feel? And he says, I don't understand the question, which is from...
King of Hearts.
What? No.
King of Hearts?
It's from Star Trek 4.
Roman Holiday?
It's from Star Trek. Oh, God. This is so upsetting.
But we have...
Well, you've made Bill Prady cry. I hope you feel good about yourself.
Beginning of Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
There was also like Bill's like Eric has a doctorate in philosophy, not science. But there's people also who fill in who know a lot more about science than the rest of us, and we have a science consultant, Dr. Salzberg at UCLA, who's the head of the physics department there, and he makes sure all our science is actually 100% real, including what's written on the whiteboard in the apartments. He does that for us every week, and he even fields questions from us when we say, hey, Sheldon and Amy need to have a Nobel Prize winning discovery, and it needs to be something that no one's thought of before. What do you think that could be?
I saw Salzberg backstage on my last episode, and I said, are you having fun with the super asymmetry stuff? And he goes, it's the hardest work I've ever done. Your question.
Hi, Will. This is Debbie,
Hi.
and I am a nerd.
Hello.
I appear in the movie Trekkies.
Oh, outstanding. So do I.
But now you're the Doppler effect.
I'm a Klingon in the movie Trekkies.
But here you're the Doppler effect.
I am the Doppler effect.
Which I believe was Dave Getch's Halloween costume in college.
That is true.
Whoa. I
Well,
got
your
this
mic-
specifically for today. My question is, will there possibly be some future flashes of Sheldon as a grown-up in Young Sheldon?
Oh, interesting.
It would be interesting to see kind of like the future flashes of his future, but no, that's not how it's going to be type of thing.
I mean, I don't know the answer to that. If you're asking, would it be cool if Jim Parsons agreed to be on Young Sheldon, I'll say, yeah, sure. And beyond that, I'll float it past him.
I want to make a joke. Can I make a joke?
Please make a joke.
If you're the Doppler effect, you should be wearing a red shift.
Bravo. Well done. Nice.
But the Doppler effect was tell your story. Well, I'm not going to tell your story.
When I was in college, there was a costume party, and I dressed up just like that, although much worse than that. That's an excellent execution of it. And I got drunk, and I ran around the party going, wow.
Your question.
Yes, it was just because I grew up with Star Wars, Star Trek, all that. I have always been a fan of that sort of thing. But in the show, it's kind of portrayed that girls aren't really into that. And I just wondered, that was 12 years ago. Do you think your show and the popularity of it made it more popular perception of girls being into geekdom and sci-fi? Do you think that changed, that that girls are into this stuff.
Kind of a Heisenberg-ish, by portraying something, it changes it?
Yeah, like how has, it has been, if I can interpret your question, it has been traditionally presumed in nerd culture until roughly 10, 12 years ago that this was boy stuff and that women were excluded from a lot of these spaces in a really terrible way, which was really unfair and unnecessarily gendered. And if I understand your question correctly, you're asking, do the writers feel that by including women in these things that we male nerds love, did you help normalize for the world that yes, women love these things too, and this is a space for women as much as it's a space for men?
I hope we showed that.
Yeah.
And to the extent that we did, I will always be proud of that. It is true. I wish that it was more obvious than it is. But girls love fun things. They're fun. It's fine.
And not just in popular culture, but what I've been really proud of with the show is females in the STEM fields. The show does, thank you, The Big Bang Theory. Yes, I'm not one of them. I'm a big dummy. I'm just putting that out there. But like, to all you super smart women out there, like that's a thing I'll carry that I'm really proud of. And we do this UCLA scholarship for the STEMs, and to see, we just had the first class graduate from that program. So we started 4 years ago, and now these kids are going on changing the world, and that half of those are women is like, it's astounding. I love it. So both, yes, in pop culture and in science, I think the show has been a part of a wave that we've all been a part of, for sure.
Your question, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for making one of my favorite shows ever. My question is, what made you want to be a writer?
It's the only skill I have. I can't do anything else.
Do you have, as writers, so I work as an actor, my real passion is writing, and I have this compulsion. Like, I have to do it. If I'm not doing it, it's like I'm not eating. Like there's just, this part of me is missing. Do you all have that same relationship with the work and with, or is it like, I gotta do this job because the show's gotta go out and all these people are relying on me?
I mean, a little of both. I think, like you said, I don't know what made me want to be a writer. I just think I've always written. I remember being a kid and always writing, and had a little like portable typewriter, manual typewriter when I was a kid that I would type up little like plays and stories on. And even though now there's definitely like, you have to generate this material, there's like timelines and deadlines, but it doesn't sort of change the fun of getting to tell stories. Like that's still my favorite part of this job, is sitting in a room with this group of people and making jokes and telling stories is definitely the most fun part of this job over the last 10 years.
Has there been a room bit that you've tried to get onto the show that just, that kills in the room, but it just dies on the stage?
We probably have put it on the show and it has died.
There are certainly jokes that have seemed funny in the room that have died on stage. I'm sure, I mean, there's...
Well, one thing that actually did make it into the show, right, was every time we had a baby that needed to be named either on the show or in real life, Eric Kaplan has an ability to just come up with, I'll call them unique names. Eric, what's a good baby name?
So the funny thing is, I was, at the last panel we did, there was a woman whose name is now Kenotis. Because she didn't like her name. I don't know if it had something to do with she didn't like her parents. It wouldn't be appropriate to like ask her to say that in front of a big crowd of people. But she said she wanted a new name, and I gave her the name Kenotis. So I was wondering if Kenotis was going to come here, or whatever happened to Kenotis. To go back, because I've been pondering about that writing thing, and I think writing is probably, for me, but probably for a lot of people, it's playing by yourself. And I think I started, for some reason I wasn't playing with toys, I was playing with objects. Like I've mentioned this to Steve, that I had a king rock, and I had other rocks, and I would play games with the rocks. And I think writing is sort of like the playing, but instead of with rocks, you're sort of creating virtual characters. And I wonder, like playing by yourself versus playing with other people, I think it's got to have something to do with that there's different sides of yourself that you're learning to have them talk to each other by projecting it onto whether it be rocks or toys or the Big Bang cast or something like that.
But writing in a group the way we do, to me, feels like the way playing a pretend game with other people feels.
Like playing a pretend game with other people. It's beautiful, yeah.
Your question.
Hi, there was an episode where the characters were trying to get badges to Comic-Con and couldn't. And someone brought up WonderCon and everybody scoffed. Have you reevaluated your position on that?
Well, you know, we were talking about, my son and I got here early this morning, we were walking around. Is it our imagination, or does this year feel different at WonderCon? I mean, that it felt legitimately like its own thing as opposed to Baby Comic-Con? It really did for us on the floor today.
Hey, way to go, WonderCon. Y'all grown up. Good work.
As Socrates said, PhilosophyCon begins in WonderCon.
Your question, ma'am.
Hi. Who has the best personal growth out of the characters?
I thought you were going to say out the writers.
Apparently, Dave Getch has the best personal growth as a writer. He raised his hand and claimed it. No one else gets to claim it. Those are the rules. Is there character growth that has been surprising? Is there character growth that's been really fun? Has there been like what? That's a great question.
Well, the Will Wheaton character started off as a cartoonist.
I like the way he's developed.
I mean, they've all had incredible growth. Look at Wallowitz. When we first met him, he was this hound dog who was chasing after women, and then he got a girlfriend, and he got married, and then he went to the space station and came back, and it just all seemed okay as it happened. It never seemed crazy or seemed like we were doing something that couldn't really happen somehow, even the space station part. But
yeah, I mean,
great question.
Amy, who we talked about earlier, has had, I think, probably Amy and Sheldon. You're right. Everyone has had them. I think those are probably the most dramatic. But I think the great way it happened, which felt very organic and very slow, so that you didn't feel like the change was happening in the moment. But when you look back, you know, we did an episode last season, I think, which half of it took place, 10 years in the past or whatever, and it was fun to go back and revisit those characters and rewrite those characters as they were then, and you realize, like, even when we put them in the old wardrobe, which you don't notice that it's changed that much until you go back and you look at it side by side, and you're like, wow, everything has really changed.
Because the show's sort of about growth, because it's about these people who are stuck in these things that they loved as kids, and then how they make the transition to an adult world. So maybe the character that grew the most was the audience. It was all of you.
That's beautiful. It's a thinker.
He has a PhD in philosophy, so that
I believe you
comes naturally to him.
There will be a test.
Yeah.
Sir, your question.
I'm hoping y'all can solve one of the biggest mystery on the show. Will Penny's maiden name ever be revealed? And if so, what is it?
It's Kenotis.
Is it Kenobus? Penny Kenobus? All right, there's your official
answer. If we do reveal it, we're going to let Eric name it, so I know that.
We're running down to about 15 minutes left. I have a couple of questions that are important to me.
To actually give you a serious answer about Penny's last name, she didn't have one for the longest time, and then we just got superstitious about it, and felt nervous to really give her one. So it will and always will only be Hofstadter.
Right, I think writers, TV show people are a superstitious lot. There are a number of superstitions, and most of us rational people, but there are a number of crazy superstitions. It's a Chuck Lorre thing, but none of us sit in the director's chairs that have our names on them, and it's become a crazy superstition, and the last name thing became a fierce superstition, and so
what
that's
was the fierce superstition?
What?
Oh, the last name.
Penny's last name, yeah.
If you tattoo a joke on a black cat, the audience will not laugh at it.
That's an odd superstition.
Strange superstition.
That's true.
Yeah.
It makes sense, though. That's not something I'd be willing to risk.
No, don't risk it.
It is the final season, and you were talking when we started about how the lasts and all of that. And Getch, you told me something really cool backstage about meeting the creator of Friends. And I thought that was a really cool story that maybe you could relate briefly to the
Well, I think it happened to Tara and maybe Holland.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, no, a few of us were at an event and we saw Marta Kaufman, who was one of the creators of Friends, was there, and so we were geeking out and reached out and spoke to her for a moment and just said, you know, we're from Big Bang Theory, you know, we know you ended a long-running show. Do you have any advice for us? And she goes, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's going to be so hard for you. This is like, are you okay? Like, she's checking in on us. But she said, it's going to be so hard, but fall in love with the next one. She said, you gotta fall in love with the next one you do. So hopefully that comes along.
Do you remember the moment, like the moment where like the word came down, like it really is, like this is, we're gonna wrap up this season? Were you together when it happened, or do you remember how that happened?
It happened in waves, and it was a really, really bad day. I can't express to you just how emotional and terrible that day was. It was like we were told somebody died. People sobbing. It was terrible.
I wasn't there. I had taken a couple days off to go up to drop my daughter off at college.
Okay.
And I was.
And I remember when she was like in first grade.
Well,
the show started.
Yeah, 12 years. And so I'm dropping my daughter off to college, and I'm bawling from that. And Chuck Lorre is calling, and I'm not returning the phone calls, and I see my phone. And so I missed out on crying with everybody. I got to say goodbye to my daughter and then get the news about the show, and it was awful. It was a bad day.
You know, the cast was crying. We were crying. The cast also wanted to make sure, they wanted to come down and tell the writers, you know, face to face, which was lovely. We had been up in Chuck's office with them and Steve, and the decision was made, and they're saying, can we come down and let the writers know? So they came down into the room, and we all told it, and there was more crying, then there might have been some drinking, and then some more crying. It was a rough day.
I didn't cry. I distinctly remember being like, wow, everybody's being a baby. And then I cried for like the next 3 months. So
One of my favorite traditions, and it seems to always happen the show after I work on the show. So I'll come and work. When I go to work on The Big Bang Theory, I get to go in for a week. And I go in and we do a table read on Wednesday, and then we rehearse Thursday. We get to take Friday off because they're all so good at their jobs. And then Monday we block for the cameras, and then Tuesday night we shoot. So that week, every week I work on the show is the best week of my life. And the last 3 episodes I've done, Kaylee has coordinated a flash mob to surprise and entertain you guys after the show. So what happens is we film the last scene, and the director will say, okay, great, that's a cut. The first AD will say that's a wrap. Then we come out and do a curtain call for the audience that's assembled in the theater. But when there's a flash mob, the actors and then all the crew just fill in the space where the guy's living room set is, and they do some crazy, super coordinated dance. And I've seen this for years, and it's great. I love it. Have you ever thought about doing something similar to that for the cast? That would be just you guys. Please say yes. Please tell me when I can come and watch it.
So the answer is yes.
Great.
We talked about it a lot this season. Calm down. We hired a choreographer. We went to several rehearsals. Those rehearsals were put on tape so we could study them and get better next time. We went back and watched the tape of those rehearsals and decided there was no way that we were going to do that in front of anybody.
If I offered you all barbecue at Castle Wheaton, would no? Nope. Okay, so Milaro's out, but is anybody else in?
I'm just now finding out this fell apart. I'm not on the show full time. I'm there half the time. I am just learning right now. It's not a bit. I am just learning. Right
you've been practicing, right? Have you been practicing a lot?
I did practice.
All right, let's do. We can do
How
a
does
little.
it go? Do it for us, Bill.
I'm not going to do
Guys, you want to see Bill do some of the moves, right?
No.
and there was talk. I was like, well, the funny thing is, we do have video of it. We could show a little clip. And Maria was like, I will literally kill you in your sleep.
I will flip this table. You guys have no idea. You're not showing this video. But this poor choreographer, the only thing I ever heard her say was, I can make it easier. Like, she was basically crying at the end of her. She's like, I can make it easier. I don't know. Like, and sometimes she'd be like, what if you don't just dance for this part? What if you just kind of like...
We specifically hired her because she works with children.
That's incredible.
And the truth is, I think we didn't know quite how bad we were until the cast and crew had done another surprise flash mob, like right in the middle of rehearsals, and theirs was so good.
I think that's what sealed it. When we saw that last one, we were like, oh,
Really,
no.
the first rehearsal didn't seal it for you guys?
But there were emails going about at rehearsal, and some writers would be like, really? We're still doing that? Okay.
I'm really disappointed I'm not going to get to see that, but I support your choice. But it sounds like Bill knows how to do it, so maybe the next time I come over to help Asher with D&D.
He'll do it.
You can come over. I will do it for you at my house.
Okay,
You're all
all right.
welcome.
Okay, great. Go ahead. We'll probably have time for probably 5 more questions if we could keep them really quick.
Hello, my name is Andrew, and I just want to say I love your show, and I kind of hate the fact that it's ending, but I just have to go with it. But my question was, so did you guys as a group ever think of what if we ever fixed the elevator that was broken? I was just asking.
That's a great question. A lot of people want to know about the elevator.
Well, the elevator being broken actually serves a really important purpose on the show, and Bill, you can talk about.
So one of the things you need is a place for characters to walk and talk, and when Chuck Lorre and I had worked on Dharma and Greg, we had this outside street set where characters could have a conversation, and we had it because there was an unused stage at 20th Century Fox where we shot Dharma. We tried to do that at Big Bang, and it was too much real estate, and we started talking about what if they always had to walk up the stairs, and it would give us either they're talking in a car or talking while they're walking if you need characters to have a conversation in motion. So we created the stairway, and I think one of the things that I'm going to find incredibly sad. So Stage 25, Warner Brothers, we built the set that's the hallway, and that it is floors 2, 3, and 4 redressed. And there's the stairs that go down. In order to make those stairs, the floor of Stage 25 is concrete, and they brought in jackhammers, and they jackhammered out the floor, and they dug, and they poured steps down there. And so at some point this summer, I guess they're going to come and fill that in. And
Well, I hadn't thought of that before.
I know. That's all I think. That's one of the things that's all I think about right now is watching them fill that in. So that's not quite an answer to your question, but it is a story about stairs.
Thank you. Yes.
I have a question. First of all, my name is Alex. You probably remember me from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel. Anyway, so I really thought the Fortnite part of this favorite season 12 clips was really funny. Where'd you guys get the idea to make that?
That came from Dave Getch's nephew, came to hang out at our office for about a week, and he started playing Fortnite on Dave's computer, and I was like, hey, you want to show me this game? And it came from his disappointment bordering on despair with my lack of proficiency for Fortnite. And eventually, he kept being like, well, I was going to show you some, I got to think of a new, and so eventually he put me in playbox mode, and he put me in front of a tree, and he was like, why don't you try and cut down this tree? It will be good for your training. And I thought it was going to be this wax on, wax off, Karate Kid thing, and then he was going to teach me to play the game, but he just left, and he never came back.
But I think Jeremy has continued to play the game. Every time we go on a break, we'll go into Dave's office and keep playing it.
And we actually were dead set on never having a video game console, my wife and I, for our kids, and we bought Xbox because of Fortnite. So my son and I are playing a ton of it right now, and we love it.
So my nephew made Maria feel terrible, but made Jeremy and his son closer.
That's right.
Your question.
I want to know who made the most bloopers.
Not Kaylee.
I mean,
That's a good question.
That is a good question. They actually.
Kaylee punched Johnny, right?
Was the other way?
Did Johnny punch Kaylee?
Well, they had tried to stage a fake blooper once, Johnny and Kaylee, which they were very excited about, where they were getting into a fight and he was going to tackle her out of frame or punch her, and they were going to do it as a bit for the cast and crew, and they did it, and the chair, something came up and hit Kaylee in the face and cut her eye open the day of the show, I think. Actually, the show was that night. Which is not also a story about bloopers, really, but is a story. Yeah.
That's where the bar, though, is.
It's a story.
The question. They actually don't make a lot of. It's not a bloopery cast.
I guess Jim has the longest lines, right? Jim has the longest lines, so he probably misses the most.
Jim definitely has the longest lines, like these just gigantic science speeches, and sometimes we'll get, well, it was a funny story. We had an episode, I think it actually is the next one to air. I don't think it airs yet, but we have 3 actual Nobel laureates on the show, which probably sets a record for number of Nobel laureates in a comedy. Probably breaking the record 1, which I think we also held. But Jim had this huge piece of science that he had to say, and because he just has to sort of rote memorize it. He doesn't understand what the science is. And so he's trying to just in his head, he keeps fumbling on one part, just memorize it. And Kip Thorne, who was one of the Nobel Prize winners, who had won the Nobel Prize for gravitational waves, was trying to be nice and explain to Jim what the science was. And Jim he's like, I just need quiet and look at this. And Kip Thorne keeps trying to explain to him this very esoteric piece of science.
John Ross Bowie and I were marveling once. I think it was right before the wedding episode. We were marveling at how this cast doesn't make mistakes. That you have people that are formally trained. You have people that are lifers in the industry, and everybody seems to have a respect, not just for the material, but for each other, that is tragically uncommon in television. It is one of the many things I'm going to miss. Yes, your question.
Yeah, first of all, hi. Thank you for making the show. Everybody at home calls me Penny now. Thanks for that. I wanted to know what it was like working with Stan Lee.
When Stan was on the set.
Stan is amazing, and I can't remember how old he was when we had him on the show, but he is just a bundle of energy. Like, he comes in and I had worked with him 10 years before on this other show that no one has heard of, and I went up and I said, hey, I'm sure you don't remember. He's like, of course I do, I remember you. And it was just like, he had an incredible memory for faces and things that had been done before, and just came in so excited to work, and I've never seen anyone with the energy of Stan Lee.
I worked on a show called Eureka, and Stan came and did a cameo on Eureka, and he had one line, and I think he just said Excelsior. And that day, we found out how many people on the set and the crew were comic nerds, because all of a sudden, all these people showed up with stacks of golden and of Silver Age Marvel comics that they were hoping Stan Lee would sign, and he signed all of them without complaint. Your question.
Hi, well, as a geek girl scientist, I really revel in your making women to be geeks now. I was bullied myself, so. The question I have is, there was an episode where Amy said that Sheldon was the one responsible for all of the people coming together. He was the one for keeping the group together. But my husband and I argue that it's actually Leonard and Penny, because if you see the transition from Penny when she was so dumb to all of a sudden being able to quote things and being able to get everybody together. She brought the girls in, and Leonard brought her, and they brought the girls and the guys together. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
You may have a point.
I agree with your husband.
There is a moment in season 2 where Kaylee's voice gets a little lower. And it's like we talk about on Star Trek in our second season, the show grows the beard, right? Like Frakes grew a beard, and we were like, oh, we know what the show is about, right? Would you say, was there a similar moment, or did you kind of always know what the show was about from the very beginning?
For me, it happens during the writer's strike. That there's a change in the first 8 episodes that we do, and then the strike happens, and we come back, and it feels like we sort of...
But I do feel like it took us a while to get a handle on Penny.
I think so, yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
moment early on, excuse me, in an episode where she was going to take one of his onion rings, and they said, "Don't do that." And he said, "That's strike 3." And she's like, "Yeah, what are you going to do?" She really went at Sheldon's face for the first time, and I do remember that being a very early moment where Penny started to feel more realized to me.
When she stands up to Sheldon, when she calls
Yeah.
his bluff, and that there's really nothing he can do about it.
And then she gets banned from the apartment.
Yeah, but ultimately she wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She calls his mother, right?
She calls his mother.
Yes, your question.
My name is Camila. I have a question for Will.
Oh, okay.
Why are you so mean to Sheldon?
That's a really good question.
That is an excellent question. It's because they make me be mean to him. I think that the evil Will Wheaton is not the best example for a person to follow for how to treat other people. But my job as an actor requires me to justify why he is the way that he is. And one of the things that we figured out in the first episode that I did, where my Will Wheaton was, it's so weird for me to talk about this character who has my same name, where he was playing with Sheldon, that he actually kind of likes him. And he's like a little weird robot that is a little unpredictable, and you can push his buttons and make him do ridiculous things. This is not the way I recommend you treat a real person in real life, because it's not very nice, but it makes for great television. Thank you for your question. All right, we are now just a couple of minutes over, so I think I have to wrap this up. This is my last question for all of you, and I would love for as many of you as possible to weigh in on this. Over 12 years, the Big Bang Theory has meant a lot to so many people. One of the big surprises for me was finding out from people that are in my parents' generation that they are huge fans of the show. Baby boomers love the Big Bang Theory, and they tell me it's because they finally understand they're weird kids. Like they can watch these characters and they can understand why we care so much about Star Wars and Spider-Man and those sorts of things. A young woman earlier mentioned that she felt that the Big Bang Theory had helped expand the acceptability of women in nerd culture. That it had sort of normalized that everybody gets to love these things, which is correct. And you have done tremendous things with science over the years, and just sort of gotten people thinking about, like, you used to only make the spherical cow in a vacuum joke with other physics nerds, and you could make it to like muggles and they would understand what it meant because they saw it on the series. So my last question for you is, 12 seasons, countless adventures, enormous milestones. You're now the longest running series in history. Congratulations. You are one of a handful of shows to have a stage named after you at Warner Brothers. That is a significant achievement. In 50 years, people will go to work on the Big Bang Theory stage and get excited about the way we get excited about going to the Lucy stage at Paramount, right? What do you wish the legacy of the Big Bang Theory to be?
Can we start down there? Anyone?
Oh, me?
Yeah, let's start with you.
Sorry, I don't know where I went. For me, at its core, it's a show that families can watch together, and I think there aren't a lot of those available. So for me, that's what I love about it.
Okay.
And that, again, doesn't answer your question.
It does. A show that families can watch together is a perfectly fine legacy.
Cool. Then that's my answer.
Yeah, all right, you pass. Jeremy?
I guess just that you can identify with these characters and forever, because it's going to run in repeats forever. Which is great.
Yeah, I do echo Adams about the family thing. That's my favorite thing to hear, is that people watch it as a family, and our family is us up here, our cast, our crew, our family in the middle, our support staff, and all of you guys. Like, the show's linked so many people. I was like in the desert in Chile like a couple summers ago, and they were watching it in like a hut. It was amazing. And so that it just has this vast appeal to bring people across barriers and languages together is my favorite thing.
Maria?
I love when I hear that this show has made people interested in learning about and going into science. And I hope that is the show's legacy, because the universe is awesome and science is cool.
Eric?
I would like it if the legacy of the show was that people were tolerant of their own weirdness and other people's weirdness.
I'll just speak. The personal legacy for me is I am so grateful for all these people up here, and over the last 12 years at different times. You guys have saved my life, and I love you so much, and I'm so glad to tell that in front of all of you. Thank you so much. Good luck.
I liked what Eric said. I hope this show celebrated individuality and difference and promoted the acceptance of difference.
Along the same lines, there have been times where people have come up to us at conventions like this and said, I have a son like Sheldon, and I know it's like we're speaking in a code, and I know what she means. And she says, my son is like Sheldon, and you helped him feel a little bit cooler in this world. And that's one of the best things that I feel this show has ever done.
I think the other thing we hear a lot is that this show not only brings families together to watch, but has gotten people through these incredibly difficult times in their lives. And so I hope they take that with them. I hope that this has been a part of their lives for 12 years, and that they'll miss it when it's gone, but they'll catch up with it in reruns, and it'll bring back those same feelings of sort of joy and happiness that it brought them. And that's it.
I have said this to you all individually. I will say it again in public. It has been the greatest privilege and the greatest joy of my personal and my professional career to be part of this show. And I am incredibly grateful for the opportunities that you have given me. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that you gave me to do and for the people that you have introduced into my life. I'm fiercely proud of the work that we have done together for these last few years, and I feel that even though I'm a small part of it, I'm a small part of the Big Bang Theory, but the Big Bang Theory is a huge part of my life, and I want you all to know, and I want all of these people to know just how much that means to me. So thank you for everything. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments. And thank you all very much for coming out today. I would just like to ask for a round of applause for 12 seasons of The Big Bang Theory. These are the people that create these stories that we all love, so let them hear it.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our panel of guests from inside the Big Bang Theory Writers' Room and our special guest moderator, Mr. Will Wheaton.